All right. And I really wish that that I could interact with all of you, and because that's a part of it too. As I go through things, I have adapted and changed my presentations because of what you all share. So please, if there are anything, write them down and let's talk about them at the end, and we can do that. But I've already shared chaplain at Froedtert Hospital and all the kind of my background. I'm just going to kind of jump into the idea of acceptance through this ALS journey. And acceptance is not an easy thing to embrace. And so, this is the first time I've really kind of presented on acceptance as well. But we talk about this quite a bit with the folks that come to the Milwaukee clinic in terms of their attitude and all that around it. So I'm just going to go through some things and share some of my thoughts on this. So in this presentation, we're going to kind of define what acceptance is, what that really looks like, and then recognize some strategies of acceptance. Start to think about how we can build on things and try and look at our own selves and figure out how we can be better at that acceptance. And then also looking at some misconceptions, because sometimes we get an idea of what acceptance is, and it's really not that. So we're gonna do that as well. So what I'm about to share is actually simple. And when I say simple, I mean it's kind of a simple thing. That doesn't mean that it's easy. A lot of times the simple things, they may sound like cliches. And I'm not saying that cliches are good or bad, but sometimes it makes it sound a little bit more simple than it is. The cliches and the platitudes that people often say, and a lot of talk. And sometimes acceptance seems like, yeah, that's great. You're great at talking about that, or that's great words to say. You come up with nice sayings. People have all those little those little plaques or whatever, and these nice little sayings about how we can be more accepting. And that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes it seems like it's too basic. It is a simple concept. However, it is not easy. This is something that has to continually be worked at. It's a practice, and I'm going to be talking more about that, but it is not easy. It is simple. It is not easy. Okay. So acceptance is I have to just move something there. There we go. Acceptance anchors us so that we might focus on the present rather than endlessly drift in a sea of wishing, dreaming, and pining for anything other than what is. And that's really the basics of acceptance, is kind of looking at focusing on the present, being in the now, instead of trying to think about, if I could only be this, or if this was only happening, if this wasn't happening, I wish this wasn't happening, and pining for anything other than what is right now. So here's a little exercise we're going to do. And just for, it may not be a full 2 minutes, but for a couple of minutes. And I really want you to, if you've got the ability to write anything down, that's fine. If not, just kind of make a mental note of it. But here's what we're going to do. For about a minute or two, you're allowed to think of everything you want except a white bear. You cannot think about a white bear. Register every time you think about a white bear. In other words, try to suppress every thought about a white bear. Do not think about a white bear. You can think about everything else except the white bear. All right, we're just going to take a couple of minutes, and you think about everything except a white bear. All right, I know that's not a full 2 minutes, but hopefully you probably, and this is where I would like try to engage now and say, what were you thinking about? I don't know, how many times did people think about a white bear? Did you think about a white bear at all? Can you raise your hands? Maybe I can see. Because why? Because I told you not to, right? And once I tell you not to, it's kind of hard to not think about it. So that's kind of a rebound effect, in that when you're really trying to say, I'm not going to think about this, we think about it more. It comes into our thoughts more. So suppressing the thoughts can actually create more, right? So trying to control sleep, saying, I gotta fall asleep, and you're not falling asleep. Or sometimes trying to control weight. Oh, okay, I'm gonna try and control it now. I'm not gonna gain any weight, and you end up gaining weight because you're constantly thinking about it, and it starts to take over. So same with a lot of the things, even and again, I'm not minimizing or saying that it's easy to get away, do away with pain. But oftentimes, the more you think about pain, and I work a lot with people in the spinal cord area as well, so they deal a lot with pain. And if you know anything, it's kind of distracting or not thinking about those things. If you're not thinking about the pain all the time, it tends to lessen a little bit. Okay. So yeah, I know, like I said, it's a simplistic thing, but if we try not to suppress the thoughts and the feelings, because if we try and say, I'm not going to feel this, and we probably are going to feel it. Okay. And it's going to be more, and it's going to take on more. So acceptance is really the opposite of avoidance. A lot of times, when something's difficult, we might try and avoid it. And so acceptance is really the opposite of that. It's the opposite. It's kind of embracing it. It's a willingness to experience what is present. Experience what's going on right now. And not thinking about all the things that could have been, or what things might be in the future, but just a willingness to experience what's going on right now. It is a present moment focus. That's what I just said. Just kind of, again, taking the focus and putting it right now, right here. So some strategies as we continue to think about how we might want to look at being, trying to bring acceptance into our own lives and being more acceptance of what's going on. Here is some strategies that we can look at. Okay, so acceptance is an active process. It must be practiced. Accept is a verb. It's active. Practice consciously. So it's not just something that happens. And it's not something that we go, okay, I've got acceptance and I've got it now and I don't have to think about it anymore. It's something it's an active process, and it is practice. It's continual. Okay, and it's something that you have to continue to work at. See, it's rare that one day we choose to accept our emotional, physical pain, our bodies, our difficult relationships, or our past, and never think about it again. That's what I mean, that it's continual. It's practiced. It's rare that we just kind of, okay, I'm accepted my emotions and now I don't have to think about them anymore. That is part of it. You have to continually do it. It can require a lot of effort at times. It's not always easy. It's not always, it may take a lot of effort to be in that moment, to be accepting of our emotions or our pain or what's ever going on. It can take a lot of effort. And it's also natural to vacillate back and forth between feelings of acceptance and feeling of resistance. Sometimes we go, oh, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to, this is terrible. I'm not going to deal with it right now. And so we vacillate back and forth between acceptance and that feelings of resistance. So that's natural, but it's a continual type of thing. It's like you don't stay in that resistance and just a constant avoidance. Letting feelings or thoughts happen without the impulse to act on them. It's another strategy. Letting feelings and thoughts just happen. They don't need to have any action behind them. They don't need to have anything done. Feelings come and go. All right. And it doesn't need to have something done with it. Nothing needs to be fixed. It's just a reaction, a feeling, a thought. And it's just, you acknowledge those feelings. Nothing needs to be fixed. Oftentimes in relationships, you may have a good relationship with somebody where they know, or you say to them, I don't need you to do anything. I don't need you to fix anything. I just need you to listen to this. Just listen to me. Just be there and listen. and sometimes if you've got that good relationship with somebody, you can just easily say that to them. I've got a colleague here. She likes to refer to it as holding the bucket. Having someone hold the bucket for you and you just kind of spew forth all that stuff, and they're just holding on to it for you. They're just being there for you, kind of holding the bucket. Nothing needs to be done, but just acknowledging, letting the feelings or thoughts happen. And there's no need to keep them in check. Sometimes we worry that if we're sad, we're going to make someone else sad if we share those sad feelings. And there's nothing wrong with sharing the sad feelings. You're not going to make somebody sad. They may cry if you're crying. I know sometimes if it's a good friend of mine who's crying, I often cry because I'm empathetic. I'm crying out of empathy. I'm not crying because they've made me sad and they have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about making me sad. There's a great little story, just a little tiny story. There was a 4-year-old child whose next door neighbor was an elderly man who had recently lost his wife. Upon seeing the man cry, the little boy went into the old man's yard, climbed up onto his lap, and just sat there. And when his mother asked what he said to the neighbor, the little boy said, "Nothing. I just helped him cry." That's what sometimes we just need. We just need someone to be there with us and we don't need to keep our emotions in check. It's okay. Someone just wants to help us cry, and that's all right. Or to be angry, or to whatever else we're feeling, or to be frightened. Those are okay. And give yourself permission to not be good at everything, or to, in other words, something I can't do anymore. That's okay. It's now we have to acknowledge that I can't do this anymore, and I can't be that person. I'm not that person I want to be. And that's okay. It's hard to stay in that moment of saying, I'm not the person I want to be. I want to be something else. There's not much you can do about that to change it. And just to be angry at the fact that you're not the person you want to be takes a lot away from trying to just be with your family now or with whoever it is and to be the person that you are now. So give yourself permission that that's okay. Oftentimes we say, I am, angry, or I am not that person, or I am a burden, or I am whatever that is. And know that's not, um, like you say, if you think I'm a burden, you no one's a burden. People are doing things because they love you or they want to be there for you. And so, but give yourself permission to be that person, that you're not everything anymore, that might things that might have changed, and just kind of accepting that. Acknowledge the difficulty in your life without escaping from it or avoiding it. And we all do this, whatever our difficulty in life is. We try and acknowledge that, we try and embrace it, and that's the work that we have to do. Escaping from it and avoiding it, it only catches up to us. It will catch up to us. This is a trivial story, but in my own life, it's just a relationship thing, and it's not a critical life or death situation or something really tragic. But I'm a Boy Scout leader, and one of our adult leaders, his grandson had come with us to Boy Scout camp one year, and he had some mental health issues. The adult leader knew about that, and he ended up kind of bullying some of the boys, and they weren't happy at camp. They came back, told their parents. The parents said, if that boy comes again next year, we're not sending our boys. And they talked to me about that, and I said I would talk to the adult leader. And time went on, and I meant to talk to the adult leader, and it just it got pretty close to the next year before I actually talked to him. Now, thankfully, everything worked out, and he understood. His grandson was not going to come onto the camp again. He totally understood that because he saw some of the things happening with his grandson. But it could have been really messy. It could have been that he had already had, because his grandson lived in another state, so he could have made travel arrangements for his grandson. He could have made everything possible for his grandson to be here, and then I just shared that. So it could be messy. So what I'm saying is that the longer we go and we try and escape or avoid those difficult things, they catch up to us, and they can get really messy if we don't address them, if we don't acknowledge the difficulty in our lives and say, this is okay, this is going to be difficult. I'm just going to kind of try and get through this and acknowledge it and work through it, and hopefully have the people around me helping me as well. Realize that you can be in control of how you react, think, and feel. All right. When something is difficult, when something happens to us, when there is an event that happens to us and we react to it, we have the choice of how we react. If we choose to, the event in our life is one thing, but we react to it like it's a huge, out of control, out of proportion type of thing. If that's our reaction, then it just multiplies in how we feel about it. And just know that you can control how you react, think, and feel about it, and try and see the event for what it is and react with that, and grow as we choose how we control how we react to those things. So here's some of the misconceptions of acceptance, what it is not. Acceptance is not indifference. Okay, it's not a big game of, oh, whatever. That's not what acceptance is. It's not indifference. It's not saying that, just throwing your hands and going, oh, okay, whatever, I'll do it. That's not what acceptance is. It's also not liking or agreeing with or wanting it or choosing it or supporting what's happening. Okay, a lot of people think that I just have to choose, or I'm choosing it, or I want it, or go along with it, support it, whatever it is in our lives that we're dealing with. It's not that we have to like it or agree with it to accept it. Okay, that's not what acceptance is. It's not just agreeing with it. And it's not passive resignation. All right. It's not relinquishing that control or anything. It's practicing acceptance does not necessarily mean you won't be able to make a change. It's not a sign of apathy. Okay, that passive resignation. It's not just saying, fine. What acceptance involves is a willingness to experience. Just experience what you're feeling, what's happening, those around you, willingness to experience. And tuning into your personal feelings, whatever those feelings are. And just acknowledging that, embracing it, tuning into it, those personal feelings, and just being with those feelings. And letting go of control. We know that we're not in control. Being a chaplain and being a person of faith, there's one little thing that I have that I really like, as I said, we plan and God laughs. Okay, if you're a person of believing in God or whatever it is, but letting go of that control, because we're not in control of that. And then taking responsibility, just owning up to the whatever you're feeling, whatever is happening, taking that responsibility. So what I share is that I am not the foremost authority on acceptance. I don't have all the answers. I've worked in this job for 20 years. I've seen a lot. I learned, again, I told you this, I learned a lot from what I have experienced with those who have ALS, with those in spinal cord, all the other patients that I've worked with, all the families. I have had some wonderful conversations with so many people. And this is what has grown out of a lot of my experience, more so than actually learning, like taking a course in acceptance. I don't have, this is straightforward, I don't have ALS. So for those of you who have ALS and the families supporting people with ALS, you're the only ones that know what you're going through. And it's great that you get together and talk with each other and share your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, your creativity, your incredible positivity around things. We have a gentleman, and he knows that I share this in our clinic. He's an engineer. He's got patents. He's an inventor. I mean, he does some really great things. But and you might have read about him in the ALS Association newsletter. Interviewed him, and he said, "I look at the difficult things in my life, and ALS one of them, as a puzzle. And I love puzzles, and I love to figure out how things fit and how I need to be in the midst of it and how I need to fit in it." And that's the way he looks at it. And so that whole idea, those are the things that I have learned from all of you in dealing with this and growing in resilience and acceptance. And I struggle with it too. The difficulties that I've had in my life, yes, we all continue to struggle with acceptance, having to figure out how to do that, how to be true to our emotions, how to really allow that to happen, how that to take place, and work through those things, and to let other people in as well. That's part of the acceptance, letting people into your life and that want to share your life and help you and support you. And that's all I have right now. But I'd love to hear from other people, love to hear comments, thoughts,